Hey everyone, this is a clip from a recent episode of the Men of Steel podcast where we talk about Superman and Superman adjacent topics. If you enjoy this clip, check out the podcast. You can find it at certainpov.com or wherever you get your shows. This movie doesn't spend as much time with Jimmy Olsen, and that's kind of a bummer.
Yeah, especially when you have an actor like Matthew Gray Gubler, which I feel like that's a great segue into. Let's talk about the cast for this movie. I love talking about casts because I'm fascinated by the alchemy of casting.
Sure, we've got some fucking winners in this
yeah.
We've got Ed Asner as fucking Perry White.
Yep. Yes, honestly, Ed Asner, best Perry White. This is best Perry White.
I keep forgetting
I'm inclined to believe.
I keep forgetting he hasn't voiced Perry White, but he voiced J. Jonah Jameson in Spider-Man. Was it Spider-Man TAS that he voiced Perry White? I'm sorry, J. Jonah Jameson.
That honestly makes sense.
Very well might have been. I'm double checking.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing is, Ed Asner just voicing crotchety men is one of my I mean, the ultimate is, of course, Carl in Up. And he's absolutely incredible in that movie. So yeah, Ed Asner is like the very small amount he gets in here, but him just ripping Luthor apart is so good. It's so sweet.
Yeah, Duke, to confirm, it was the 90s Spider-Man, the animated series.
There you go. He's good at newspaper men.
I need to rewatch that show because I loved it as a kid. Like, my favorite were the Daredevil episodes when Daredevil shows up and Matt Murdock has to represent Peter Parker in court. God, I love that show.
Oh yeah, I rewatched it recently. I'm like, wow, this still holds up.
Yeah, it made me like The Spot, for fuck's
sake.
God, I'm so excited for The Spot to be in Across the Spider-Verse and Jason Schwartzman as The Spot. I saw that and I was like, Patrick Williams is so happy right now.
But moving on to other characters, because Ed Asner, despite the fact that, yes, perfect Perry White. Oh my God, how is he not just like everyone, before?
He was born to say Great Caesar's Ghost.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, also, like, Ed Asner would be a great live action Perry White as well.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just saying, Warner Brothers, get your act together. Give us that Batgirl movie we were supposed to have, and also cast Ed Asner as Perry White.
Retroactively?
Yeah.
Time machine.
Yeah,
like with deepfakes?
No, just new continuity.
What if every time someone wanted to make a movie, and instead of doing like the Carrie Fisher kind of like zombie thing, they're like, oh, this is the perfect casting, and then they just show the grave.
Did they do that?
Line text. Yeah, that's dark. Okay.
Yeah.
Moving on. Anthony LaPaglia as Lex Luthor is fucking great.
He steals the movie.
Yeah.
It is. Look, obviously Clancy Brown is my go-to Lex Luthor, my favorite Lex Luthor of all time. But this is a pretty good Lex Luthor.
Yeah. Actually, so so for the listeners at home, I own this movie on Blu-ray, and the Blu-ray comes with a beautiful thing that is a Bruce Timm Grant Morrison commentary track, and on that track, Bruce Timm did mention, like Morrison mentions like how much they love the animated series that Bruce Timm produced in the 90s, which is honestly, I would say, like, outside of All-Star Superman, the best Superman thing of all time. And Bruce Timm mentions them of like throwing around the idea of bringing back those actors, bringing back Tim Daly and Dana Delaney and Clancy Brown, but they were like, no. It, like, once they got the animation back, they were like, it's not quite right. Like, those actors don't quite fit the way we're telling this story and the way we're animating it, which I totally understand. So them recasting it, but they got great choices, like Christina Hendricks as Lois Lane, because they were also like Dana Delaney's great. There's no replacing Dana Delaney, but they wanted to play her like slightly younger, so Christina Hendricks was the choice they decided to go with instead.
Yeah,
and I was fine with Christina Hendricks as Lois. Like, this was one where it didn't take me out of the moment. Like, I think the only actor who I flat out was like, I know who that is, was Ed Asner. Like, when he shows it, like, I mean, obviously when you're like listening for the voices, you're like, okay, who is this person? Like, but whereas when we watched Superman Doomsday, there were multiple moments where it was just like, just stop.
Yeah. Also, I like, with that movie, I gotta say, rest in peace, Anne Heche. She was such a great Lois Lane. And
that was really awkward that we were like, don't love her performance, and then the episode dropped the week after she passed away.
Yeah. Here's the thing. I will say, retroactively, I think she's a great Lois Lane. And I still tear up every time she starts breaking down in front of Martha, talking about how much she loved Clark. So there you go.
Yeah, it was a good scene. It was just like,
Yeah. Honestly, I also say that movie, I cried, but it's not that great.
Nah, it's rushed. Like we talked about, like how like this movie had to like shorten everything down for 70 minutes. The Superman Tuesday movie was
movie.
It was like an abridged series movie. Like they might as well just make pepper jokes throughout it.
It also, I mean, that was their very first foray into like the market of, let's do direct-to-DVD movies, but they're PG-13.
Yeah.
Like we're going for like a higher age bracket than the previous stuff we made. Because of course they were making direct-to-DVD movies, but they were all Batman movies. But that was the first time they were like
Brainiac Attacks.
Yeah. Okay. I'm sorry. We cannot forget Brainiac Attacks. I used to have that on.
I wish I could. But
Me too.
I used to have it on DVD.
I'm still kicking myself that I was just like, oh, I haven't seen this one yet. I might as well put it on one night.
I remember like it was on Cartoon Network, and it's like, oh, I didn't see this episode of Superman yet. Why does Lex Luthor sound weird? He doesn't sound like a Greek dude anymore.
Was it Powers Booth was either Brainiac or Luthor in that movie, and I can't remember. It was Luthor. Okay.
Yeah. Lance Henriksen was Brainiac, I think.
Okay, actually, Lance Henriksen as Brainiac is really good casting, honestly.
Neither of those are bad choices for casting. Yeah. It was just weird that they were using the TAS models, and also the deliveries were a little weird for it. Yeah. Like, if both of them had been in Super Friends, totally fine.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, like Lex was a little bit more bumbling in that movie, and it's like, what the heck's going on? Where's my smooth Greek criminal?
Okay, I'm sorry. Now I want a new Super Friends show.
Oh,
I mean,
we need to make a sequel to Justice League Action. That was
such a good show,
right?
That was a fun little show.
It was so good. It was like, oh wow, you guys are really embracing the Bronze Age here with this show. What are we gonna do next? Cancel because Cartoon Network just wants to make Teen Titans Go because it takes what, $2 to make an episode?
Hey, you know what? Teen Titans Go is good.
It's pretty funny.
That's my hot take for the episode. Get back to the movie. James Denton as Superman was the casting I was really unsure of when I first read that. But watching the movie, he's great. Yeah. He's perfect. He's perfect.
I think he does fine, but I will say that Superman in this is he has the same kind of voice that the comic Superman does, but or the comic, the All-Star Superman, the comic kind of style, but I don't know. There is an element, and I'm really not trying to compare him to like any of like the TS or the JLU or anything like that Superman. I don't know. It just it requires a certain amount of warmth that I didn't quite get to stick some of those lines.
He was soft-spoken enough to sell the Frank Quietly Superman, but like
yeah, I understand that. I do love like Alan mentioning the great addition that he wishes in the comic, that I also wish was in the comic, is that moment where Luthor says, if you had his powers, what would you do? And Clark just says, I'd help people. Like that delivery of that one line, that for me completely sold Denton as Clark / Superman.
Yeah, and actually I would say that his Clark is better than his Superman. And this is emphasized by that scene is such because that scene is so almost exactly taken from the comic and not compressed in any real way. Like it becomes a much bigger part of this movie, and there's a reason why that scene with Luthor, like the prison scene with Luthor, is so iconic just in general. But it's magnified by the animated movie. After you're done liking and subscribing, check out certainpov.com, where you can find more episodes of the show as well as a ton of other great shows.